Hello ladies and gentlemen, it's Mikefield here, and we are here to watch an epic duel between OmniPeasant and Zinrin. Omni has brought to the table quite an extraordinary team composition featuring a man-at-arms, an occultist, a musketeer and an antiquarian. Against him we have a standard mark composition with the arbalest, a musketeer and a bounty hunter, also supported by an abomination. What I'd like to bring to your attention, however, is the set of trinkets that OmniPeasant is running on his characters. So for instance, the spiked bat on this occultist is going to increase his bleed chance against his own allies, which is definitely something that OmniPeasant's brilliant mind has planned, and that has very much to do with his current rank. This is also accompanied by the MAA who is running the numbing incense and the exotic snuff. In this particular case, this guard comes down, and this MAA is impossible to stun right now with 120% stun resistance. It's quite an extraordinary set of trinkets indeed on this character, and this means that his guard is just going to last forever. Even this abomination isn't going to be able to break it, since this musketeer is indeed in rank number 3, so she's absolutely unreachable for Zinrin. We have already seen the Stygian Embrace coming down from this occultist, so the plan of Omni is obviously to keep this musketeer stealthy and unreachable for his opponent, while just delivering lethal amounts of damage upon Zinrin. The comp of OmniPeasant features quite a few different mechanics, including the stun, including the stress, including regeneration, including stealth, and those heavy bellows coming from the MAA. As you can see, this guard has indeed prevented quite a lot of damage from coming through already, and OmniPeasant is slowly pulling forward and gaining a lot of ground against his opponent. This region from the Antiquarian is indeed quite unique. You have to also pay attention to the trinkets on this musketeer, right? The Pitfighter's helmet and the bugle here actually mean that her stress healing and has the ability to inflict stress upon her opponents is quite unique as well. The occultist here again drops a Stygian Embrace, this time upon the MAA, and is quite a big difference maker as well, where OmniPeasant is slowly going to be able to inch forward and eke out those really large leads as the time passes by. This MAA is however under heavy siege by Zinrin, and I wonder how long he's actually going to be able to stay alive. You have to remember though, the guard that he's providing also gives him quite a decent bunch of protection, so sitting on 40% prot right now, he should be quite a sturdy lad indeed, and this fight might last quite a while. Zinrin on the other side is trying to do his best actually against this MAA, dropping the mark on him, trying to prevent this MAA from dropping too many bellows, so this priority of target by Zinrin is quite decent indeed. The musketeer here, however, is going to deliver a decent bunch of healing. The crit comes down, and that's actually MAA who is going to stay around for quite a while. Now we have Abomination coming forward with potentially Rage again against this man-at-arms, and he's actually slowly dropping down. However, OmniPeasant's brilliant decision making allows him to use regeneration once again with this Antiquarian, keeping the character alive for an extended period of time. The Antiquarian, by the way, runs quite a decent normal setup of Black Mirror and the Tears of the Lost, which means that she's going to keep healing over 4 turns total. So this MAA, if Omni is going to keep him alive for long enough, is probably going to be quite an immortal character. You have to also remember the occultist has been able to provide a bit of healing already with those Stygian Embraces, and this is probably going to be further emphasized by the amount of healing that comes down from the weird reconstruction later down the line. We can see the smoke screen on this. Oh, that's quite crazy of a musketeer. This smoke screen not only does lower the accuracy of the opponents and their damage, but also provides a decent bunch of stress here. So it's quite a crazy skill actually. We don't see this normally in our games, but apparently throwing this repeatedly in the backline of Zinrin might indeed yield the desired results from OmniPeasant. At the very same time, we see the arbalest of Zinrin trying still to focus down this MAA, and he is at death's door right now. So this is the question of whether Zinrin can keep up the pressure, or that he will actually buckle underneath the pressure of OmniPeasant. And this regeneration, as you can see, is decent. It goes through any sort of damage over time that could potentially be on this MAA. There isn't any, by the way, and this 7 HP that is healed is good enough to keep the MAA alive for a while. Now you can see this abomination from Zinrin might probably just keep pressuring here. The rage comes down once again, and you just have to ask yourself the question: how long is this MAA really going to sustain this massive damage here? Obviously, OmniPeasant's strategy is working here quite well. He might just bleed his MAA once again if he uses Weird Reconstruction, just drop the invisibility here, just keeping this MAA alive. He chooses to do the latter. The Weird Reconstruction comes down again, and this means that Zinrin is not gonna be able to target this MAA for quite a while now. He needs to cleanse this invisibility first. So we can see the Come Hither here dropped upon the the Arbalest here. The Musketeer, and the Musketeer does indeed resist it, so this movement skill is not successful for Zinrin, and this actually means that this Musketeer is going to remain in rank 3, which is obviously quite big for OmniPeasant. You can see Zinrin's Musketeer once again trying to target someone. In this case it is the Musketeer of OmniPeasant, but those massive bellows have actually proven to be quite successful. So those measly 12 damage hits are not going to do much, and this is probably why Omni is indeed using the Pit Fighters here on this Musketeer. This protection buff is quite large. 20% protection on the Musketeer is substantial, and stuck together with those bellows means that she is basically immortal to any sort of direct damage. So this OmniPeasant composition is not going to go down anytime soon, and their increased durability with every single turn is further emphasized by those bellows. Zinrin does the right thing, however, removing the bellows and removing all those bellow stacks with the Illuminating Flare of the Arbalest. And this is just down to OmniPeasant right now as to whether he actually goes for more damage or whether he just kind of tries to slow down and drop some more regeneration, which he does indeed. That's quite a smart play, because like as long as you keep your MAA above 0 HP, there is nothing that Zinrin can do against him, like in terms of killing that character. So Omni is just going to wait until the MAA takes enough damage and then activate the character to get the regeneration bonus. This 7 damage might be enough indeed, and he will have to activate the MAA right now and perhaps drop another bellow. Though this regeneration is absolutely crazy. We're back at 14 HP right now for this MAA. So this healing is incredibly big right now, and I wonder if the composition of Zinrin is actually going to be able to even penetrate this amount of damage reduction, right? Because Omni is just healing for ridiculous amounts of HP right now. So this BH of Zinrin is the last character you can activate this turn, and honestly I don't really see any good target for him. Those two guys are actually marked. Oh, the Collect Bounty comes through. This is quite an unusual skill choice for Zinrin here. Usually the BH doesn't quite run this, since he's usually just a support for other characters. In this case, however, we see this, and he does a lot of damage here upon this MAA. Zinrin is also going to start the turn, so OmniPeasant does the right thing to do here and heals this MAA even further. So this means that no damage can actually kill him. Right now the Musketeer of OmniPeasant is under siege once again, but the brilliant planning of the man means that those regeneration stacks are just going to be well about enough to keep her topped up. We get the debuffs dropping on the Arbalest, resisted by the Musketeer of Zinrin, and this also means that this Musketeer is not going to have those penalties to accuracy. By the way, the previous penalties have been already removed right by the Illuminating Flare. We have Aim Shot taken once again, and this Musketeer drops to 0 HP, and right now I feel Omni might have to just guard her. Guard actually works in quite a few different ways, because first of all it increases the resistances, so it increases the durability of this MAA by 30%, but also any character who would be potentially willing to hit this Musketeer will not be able to actually deliver any damage right now. So even I feel those caltrops that Zinrin might eventually just drop across the board might just do 0 damage. I've seen this happen quite a lot of times, especially that the bellows have gone down already on this BH, so the caltrop damage might be just not high enough. We can see Weird Reconstruction being dropped. This is a crit as well. It's a crazy coincidence here. My Occultist usually just heals for 6, maybe 4, and here we have the whole 40 damage healed. So this Musketeer is actually on full HP right now, and this Bleed Occultist build is coming up huge. So those items, those trinkets are absolutely crazy, but they work very, very well for Omni. We can see the flash powder potentially being used as well to further emphasize this accuracy debuff that he has been stacking across the board. He actually decides against it, goes for regeneration across the board again, and those guys are going to be healing for tremendous amount of HP every single turn right now, and Omni can now slowly start to focus on actually delivering some sort of stress damage, which his composition is all about, by the way. So I just want to see what exactly he does here. Another smoke screen comes down on the back line of Zin Rin, and this is a lot of debuffs again. This antiquarian healing for, in conjunction with the accuracy debuffs might mean that Zin Rin is just not going to be able to do any sort of substantial damage here. Also, more importantly, I feel those bellows from MAA are also preventing a lot of the damage from coming through. Zin Rin, conscious of that, aware of that, removes all those debuffs again, and we are starting with a blank slate here. OmniPeasant has to do all this work over again. So even though his composition relying on debuffs is quite strong, it might struggle against those debuff removing stuff. Debuff removing characters such as the Crusaders and the Arbalists, so Zin Rin's team is actually indeed quite strong against what Omni is bringing to the table. However, this being said, this Arbalest has been wasting her turns removing the debuffs basically every single time, and this means that on top of those 15 regeneration stacks that OmniPeasant has, Zin Rin is also not being able to use all his characters to their full potential, which means that the damage coming through by Zin Rin might just prove to be not substantial enough to actually harm OmniPeasant in any way or form. 15 regeneration is absolutely ridiculous as well. This means that those characters are just going to stay healed up forever almost. You can see that basically every single activation for Omni right now ends up with his characters being fully topped up. So this basically means that they are just not gonna go down anytime soon. A huge crit comes down from Zin Rin though, and this puts this MAA at death's door. However, again, this healing is just quite ingenious. 18 HP regenerated right now by this MAA. And it's just absolutely crazy. He's just not gonna go down anytime soon right now. This is mostly just also because of the protection he has, so you need actually to crit the guy if you are, going to remove any sort of HP he has. This mark, however, obviously slightly increases the damage of Zin Rin, but you can see how little damage is actually coming through anyway. Another smoke screen comes down on the backline of Zin Rin, and this means that these guys are going to be forced to potentially remove those debuffs once again. You have to emphasize this is not just the accuracy debuffs, this is also quite a high crit chance debuff. So this musketeer is indeed quite powerful here. Another crit, however, lands on this MAA, and that's very, very significant amount of damage, so it forces Omni to activate right away and just to drop another bellow across the board. And this yelling old man is indeed providing quite a decent amount of stress and damage reduction, so those sniper shots are going to be just increasingly less and less effective as time passes by. This occultist sitting in row 1 is actually untouched by any sort of offensive characters that Omni has. Oh god, this is a 40 healing crit. This occultist, I feel those trinkets are just insanely good for what he's doing here. The spiked bat indeed provides so much in this particular context. And we have a stun coming down, which is, a sign of respect from Zin Rin for those insane, ridiculous heals that OmniPeasant has been able to accrue. You have to pay attention to what has been happening in this game. So with the win condition of Zin Rin in this particular setup is to just eliminate as many characters as quickly as possible. And he hasn't been able to accomplish anything in this game. Despite dropping the MAA to death's door quite a few times, he did more stress than damage in this fight. However, on the other hand, OmniPeasant is playing towards his win condition, which is indeed stress. And he has been able to not only do a substantial amount of stress damage, but also to basically paralyze Zin Rin's composition. Zin Rin eventually realizes that he's not going to get anywhere far without eliminating this occultist, which he's actually attempting to do right now. And those focused attacks might indeed bring the guy down eventually. So the question is whether this character can be guarded right now, which is the answer to which is no, because he has just been recently slammed by the Abomination, and this means that he cannot be guarded for the foreseeable future. And right now we see the effects of OmniPeasant's work coming to fruition. We have double resolve broken characters on Zin Rin's composition. We have 2 afflictions already, quite serious ones as well at that, so this might mean that Zin Rin is indeed in a lot of trouble. You probably see a pass as well from this Arbalest, and this is so huge. So those afflictions are coming into play, denying Zinrin any sort of agency in this game right now. So it's up to OmniPeasant as to how this game evolves right now. He chooses to play it the safe way, and those regenerations coming through are indeed, those stacks of regeneration coming through are indeed proving to be quite substantial once again. And this healing might mean that, you know, Zinrin might not even be able to finish off this Occultist, especially that he is using Pit Fighters as well. So this amount of damage reduction is absolutely gorgeous for him. A ranging shot comes through. This is a buff across the board for OmniPeasant, removing some stress and also granting his characters some accuracy and removing some stress taken. So this is a perfect setup here, again allowing Omni to capitalize on his opponent's lack of ability to do anything against him. Basically, this computer also plays in OmniPeasant's hands, because this means that this Occultist can no longer be targeted by those marksmen, right? So markswomen actually. And this Occultist is going to persist, is going to stay alive, because the only two characters capable of actually doing any damage to this Occultist right now are this Abomination and this Bounty Hunter, right? So those two backliners are only able to hit the backline of OmniPeasant, and those characters are very tanky and really strong. So Zinrin again wastes another turn on removing the debuffs that Omni has been laying on him, and actually this might mean that Zinrin will eventually just fall to stress, because we are around turn number 9 right now. This is quite a slow stress composition by OmniPeasant, but admittedly it just gets the job done. We can see a lot of afflictions right now on Zinrin's side. All those characters are slowly going towards 200 stress, at which the hard attacks are going to start. And this is a dodge by this Occultist as well, so no damage coming through, no stress coming through. Basically OmniPeasant's game to lose at this point, you have to feel. Because Zinrin again takes a heavy bunch of stress here, takes a lot of debuffs, and he's basically where he started. So you have to just wonder if this is not all that she wrote for Zinrin at this point in time. Where those characters are just not going to be able to deal any substantial amounts of damage, are just slowly going to fall into madness. We see this Occultist obviously take some damage, some punishment from Zinrin, but again we have a lot of stacks of regeneration here, and this means that this Occultist is nowhere near being dead. Another very powerful heal coming through, obviously. This is by the virtue of this bat, of this spike bat this Occultist sports right now. What a particularly interesting setup actually by OmniPeasant. This is just brilliant. You see this regeneration is actually slowly being worn down, and Omni just drops another stack right now. This brings us to 6 healing per round, and honestly Zinrin is in a very tough spot right now. We'd have to have like an absolutely lucky, very fortunate set turn of events right now for Zinrin to be able to capitalize on his very high damage team composition. So OmniPeasant's team is basically immune to any sort of damage, and Zinrin just realizes the genius of his opponent and just taps out. And we have OmniPeasant coming out victorious from this fight. He gains quite a lot of rank points here, and he's going to climb up. And you have to just feel that this composition is near unbeatable. Seriously, this is such a wonderful setup of characters.